Hello, everybody. Noon again. So, I thought I'd do a little bit on predictions for 2024. So, at the moment we're on the let me see, 19th of January 2024, as per the Gregorian calendar. Not that I subscribe to the Gregorian calendar, I slightly do it differently. But a few things that I've drawn from my automatic writing, others who I respect greatly, and their interpretations of their own automatic writing. Astral traveling from myself and various other people, astrology from other people. I'm not an astrologer. I know a little bit about it, and can work with it in some senses, but not where you would say I'm an astrologer. I'm definitely not an astrologer. So I look to other people in both Western astrology, so using Fox House, and also Vedic astrology and Chinese astrology. So I've drawn this from many different points, but I've also looked at things that I've seen throughout my life of what I know is to come. So what's coming up in 2024? Well, it's a big year. It's a really big year. And it's tumultuous, I think is probably the best word for it, but in a good way. So first things first, let's look at, currency. Everybody's been talking about keeping cash alive, going on to Bitcoin, not cryptocurrencies, but Bitcoin itself, which decentralized, it's actually a really good idea. It's quite good as long as you have the technologies that can work it and you know how to work Bitcoin itself. On the cash front of it, do we really want a promissory note that's from a corporation? And that's what people are questioning now, is they want to keep cash alive, but they don't necessarily want it to be from the Bank of England, Bank of Scotland, Royal Bank of Scotland, Clydesdale Bank, and all those other banks that can print money. So how is that going to work, on the financial side of things? Now, there's a group of us, and we are a number of people around the world who have accurately predicted the crash of 2008 and what's happened in 2012. So is this going to be a crash? Well, it'll kind of look that way, but not entirely, because there are enough people who are doing things in different ways. And one of the things that I see coming up is microcurrencies. So if we take, so I'm based in the UK, so if we take Newcastle, and say the Newcastle people decide, oh, we're going to have the Newcastle Newt. Yeah, this is just a hypothetical. We're going to have the Newcastle Newt. And Edinburgh says, oh, we're going to have the Edinburgh Eden. Yeah, so that's their tokens. That's their kind of promissory notes, if you like. Anybody who comes into that to say, oh, well, my value of whatever it is far greater than what the Edinburgh is tokens, is going to be stopped, because there are enough people now who sit there and go, no, it should be 1 for 1. Now, how many tokens that is, that's entirely dependent on people themselves, and that's where equity comes in. So I had it yesterday where someone had done something for us. We were expecting to pay for it. He turned around and said, no, it's fine. Don't be ridiculous. It's not a problem. It's taking me 10 minutes. It's fine, which was great. But we still made an equity on that. Now, that equity would get them a cup of coffee and a bit more besides, but not a huge amount, not what you would set as a fee, if you like. But the equity was there. So this is the thing is, if you look at Sarah on here, or, Ashley, or, any of the other practitioners, and, you could say to them, they might say to you, oh, it's 10 tokens. Now, if you sit there and go, do you know what you've given me, it's, as far as my value is concerned, I think it's worth 20 tokens. You give 20 tokens. Yeah, so 20 Edens or 20 Newts or whatever it is, but it's a 1-for-1 basis no matter where you go. And that's how the microcurrencies can work really, really well together. You get a lot of economists sitting there going, no, it can't work that way because economy. Right, stop. Just hang on a second. Look up the word economy. Look up the word economy and what it actually means. And it means lack of. Yeah, so we don't want to have an economy. We just want to simply live our lives. So, that's a really clear indicator of what's coming down the line. How that's going to look, I don't know. Now, the spans that I'm talking about today are, some of them are just over this next year. Some of them are going to be the next 200 years. Some of them are going to be the next 800 years. Some of the beginnings of things that are going to come to fruition by the end of 200 years, by the end of 800 years. We don't actually know, and we can't see at the moment how that looks. You're asking somebody who, kind of like from the Bronze Age, to think about how things will look in 2,000 years' time. That's, don't expect us to know exactly how that fruition is. We will find out whenever we get there, and that's okay. That's fine. It's taking the next steps forward, and The next one coming into, I mean, mortgages and things like that, they're going to kind of go out the window. And that doesn't mean sit back and do nothing about them in your loans and everything else. I know people in credit cards and stuff like that, and people are in that. But usury, the first real, or rather, this is an extension, it's a continuation from what's happened a number of years ago, of people starting to question usury. Now, if you don't know what usury is, it's really simple. It's interest. So when you go and you take out a loan and they say, oh, you have to pay back so much in interest, interest is usury. Now, usury is both illegal and unlawful. So the first one is it's unlawful, and the second one is it's illegal. Now, if you even want to take it down to, if you're a Christian persuasion or you are following a biblical route to do things, entirely up to you. I'm not questioning that at all. But even in there, it says that usury is unlawful. And, it's the only time where Jesus really got upset about things. And they say he got violent. Well, I would kind of query the violent bit. But him throwing out the moneylenders for the temple, not such a bad thing, was it? Didn't make sense on that one. So the usury side of it is going to crumble. People are going to sit there and go, hang on a second, why are we paying money for old rope? So, that then brings in the tax. Yeah. So, if anybody who's working for the tax offices at the moment, and it doesn't matter what type of tax it is, income tax, capital gains tax, inheritance tax, there's so many, corporation tax. I'm trying to think of them all now. Council tax, any of those so-called taxes, they're going to crumble. So, if you're working in that system, start looking for someone else to do. And if you sit there and you think, and to be honest, if the people who are really ingrained in that, oh, everybody has to be taxed, nobody's disagreeing that we should make contribution. How that contribution is up to us. So if we see that our local community and our local geographic area doesn't look very good, it's not very easy to go on the roads or whatever it might be, then it's up to us to do something about it. But this hamster wheel produce thing is really falling to bits. There are some people who are still trapped in it. Now, the people who are still trapped in it and who do still think along those lines, it'll be funny, they're not going to be watching this video. And if they are, great, that means you're starting to open to things. And if you sit there and argue against everything that's being said, there's no reason why you can't have a discussion. But if you're going to argue about it, that means that you're getting hit up about it, which means that your body already knows that you're wrong. It's a really, really simple equation. When we get angry about something, it means that we know that we're wrong. And we can go into this in a really, really deep discussions debate, and we might well do on one of the campfires, because there's a lot of different things that people think about. Well, hang on a second, I get angry because, women and children are being bombed and they're getting hurt. Absolutely. But what are you actually getting angry at? Is it because you're actually feeding that? Now, there's a lot of people that I've spoken to recently, and they've gone, I don't feed that. Well, hang on a second, you pay tax. So what's transpired from a lot of things is that the UN Charter, not the UN Peacekeeping Force or Security Council, the UN Charter that we signed up to in 1949, actually stipulates in there that the paying of tax that is used, or funds that are used to permit genocide, war crimes, crimes against humanity, and I think there's a couple of other things as well, is actually unlawful and illegal. So what have we been coerced into doing? Just think about your PAYE, pay as you earn. Oh, it'll make it so easy for you to do that. Oh, fabulous. Yeah, great. Woo. Was it such a good thing? And some of the arguments we get back on tax are things like, oh, but we wouldn't have this and we wouldn't have that and we wouldn't have the next thing. Yeah, hang on a second. Do we actually need those things? Or do we need those things because that problem has been created? How does the world look? Like I said, if you take it over 200 years, just 200 years, we don't know how it's going to look. But the whole point is that most of us are pioneers, and we're actually going forward on these things and saying, do you know what? Sticking to the three really, really simple tenets. Harm none, benefit to all, leave no footprint. Difficult to do. We have to find out timescales of things. So leave no footprint. How long does it take for something to degrade and be taken back into the earth? Sometimes that can be thousands and thousands of years, sometimes millions of years. And sometimes it could be 2 days, for some things. So we have to choose and decide what we're going to use, how we're going to do it. And we have to be, we're obligated to one another to cause the least amount of destruction we possibly can. and know that we then have to help in some form and in some ways how that is actually recycled back into the earth, so leaving no footprint. Okay, so there's a number of different things to look at on this one. The other one is that conveyances. So conveyances, for those of you who haven't heard that word before, that's what you might term as your car or your vehicle or your van or anything like that. I can see them changing. And I have spoken about this on the group and on the campfires quite regularly. I don't know how. I'm not an engineer. I'm not somebody who designs these things, builds these things or whatever, or comes up with different ways of doing it. I just know that this is what I've seen for a long, long time. And the conveyances are, above the earth. They don't actually have contact with the earth. How does that work? Ask somebody out there who knows about these stuff. And you usually get the answer back of like, well, that's not possible. And then they start thinking about it. And then they come back a few days later and they go, well, I thought about it. And it would be possible if you could do. And that's how you start to make things happen. It's, I've spoken about this before, about how oil rigs are built. Everybody thinks, oh, there you go. It's an oil rig. It's a standard set design. That's what happens. You build it, put it in the sea, and then it works. Yeah. That's not how oil rigs are designed and built. Oil rigs and designed are built on the back of napkins and beer mats that have been split open by people who have got together round food, round a table, yeah, and somebody comes up with an idea, usually based on safety, and says, why can't we do this? And everybody laughs at them. So they're all engineers, hydrographic engineers, and all that sort of stuff, and they all laugh at them. But 3-4 hours later in that meal, somebody goes, do you know that idea that you had? That would actually work if we did this, this, and this. And then all those bits of paper, those napkins and everything else that they've drawn and written on, get taken to the designers and say, right, there you go, there's the next oil rig, build it. So they design it and then they start building it. Is it going to be perfect? Nothing that we build or create is going to be absolutely perfect in every single sense, right? It will have a time whereby it's useful, and hopefully it won't cause too much or any destruction to us or the earth or any of the inhabitants of this earth. So that's really what we're looking at. Now, the other thing that I can see happening is little by little, things that have been hidden away from us being revealed. So the energies to have a conveyance that is, floats above the earth and moves that way, that's going to start being revealed to us. Now, here's an idea for you. Okay, so let's get comfy on this one. Cup of tea, cup of coffee, put your feet up. Let's say that there are people out there who have already developed these things, and someone's come along through malicious intent for whatever reason and decided to patent it, yeah, and they hold the patent on it. But those people who have designed those things are still out there. They're still out there. They're still tinkering in the back gardens and the sheds and, at the work on the spare time and all those different things. They're still out there. Now, what happens if we create safe spaces for them and we say, look, do you know what? Design it, give us the blueprints, and we get the blueprints out across the world so everybody can do it. Now, I was kind of thinking about, I've seen cars made out of hemp, which is really good, and a number of other things as well. But the other part is to use things that, are difficult to recycle. Well, how many junkyards are there around that have got bits and pieces of cars that we've already had that we could then mangle together into conveyances? Does it have to look pretty? Is the aesthetics really that important? Talking about aesthetics, I've had quite a few comments from a couple of years back of some, but more, it's mainly all women who have said, whenever you go on video, it'd be really good if you wore makeup because then it would look really good, and do your lighting this way and do it. Look, not being funny, don't have time for that. This is how I am. This is how you find me. You don't like it, you can scroll past, not a problem. Now, I still listen to people who have done their faces up and got lighting right and everything else because they can have really good things to say. But for me, you're not getting to see, because my husband actually mentioned to me the other day that he'd caught one of my older videos and he went, and that was at the beginnings of the lockdowns. I think we're about 3 weeks into the first lockdown. And he said, you actually looked shockingly ill on that video. So if I had been wearing makeup, you wouldn't see that. And I would rather be truthful and honest as far as I can be, yeah, on something like this. So those people that are out there let's help them to get that information out so that other people can make those things and, bring it together in whichever way that comes. Like I said, it might not be pretty. It might not be, fantastic to begin with. We can possibly refine it. Maybe we don't want to refine it. Maybe it's exactly what we need, and exactly what it does is what we need it to do. It's entirely up to us. So, that's another side of it. The energies, and you'll all know what I'm talking about the energies that come into your home that we have been duped into thinking a number of different things. Yeah. I can see all those companies crumble. Now, I'm not the only one, and it's this year that they crumble. And I don't know exactly how it's going to look. I don't know exactly how it's going to, play out or anything like that. What I do know is that they are not going to get away with what they've been getting away with for so many years. And it has been a long, long time that they've been getting away with it. Like I said, nobody disagrees with giving a contribution. But that contribution, Gary Bronze, I've already shared out Gary Bronze talking to Richard Rhodes. And Gary quite easily explains, and thank you very much to Gary for doing this, because it gives people a true visualization. Because I'll be really honest, for me to visualize the difference between a million, a billion, and a trillion is actually quite difficult. So, how he explains it is $100 bill, yeah? And if you stack them one on top of the other, how far or how big a stack do you think you have when you have $1 million, right? $1 million. And it's the back of a chair. It's to the top of the back of a chair. Now, if you do the same thing, but for $1 billion, how high do you think it comes up to? And I was really surprised at this one as well. So I think the building's called, is it Burj Khalifa? The big hotel that they've built. And it's the height of that, plus 200 feet. So that's stacks of $100 bills, one on top of the other, right? So $1 million comes to the top of the back of a chair, and $1 billion comes to that building plus 200 feet above it. That's $1 billion, yeah? So how much do you think $1 trillion comes to? Right? Because these supposed twits who think they're in charge, right? They're talking about, oh, we are so many trillions in debt, and blah, blah, blah. What is $1 trillion? What does it look like? Now, if I can remember correctly, because it really still does blow my mind a bit, so your million is the back of the chair, your billion is the Arabic building with 200 feet on top. $1 trillion, I think what he said was it was twice backwards and forwards to the International Space Station. That's $1 trillion. How on earth can that possibly be right? Yeah, I'm not saying that Gary's wrong. What I'm saying is he's right. What I'm actually asking is, how can we be in debt by that much? Yeah, whenever everybody is working more than they have ever done. Yeah, and yet we're that much in debt. Who's the debt to? Again, come back to usury, interest, and a whole load of other stuff that's going on as well. So when we're looking at the differences of stuff that's coming through, the other thing that I could, and I know some people might disagree with me in this one, I can see new lands forming. Now, it's not by tectonic plates moving about or anything like that. It's literally new lands rising up, which are incredibly fertile. So you think about it having been under the sea, it's, you've got algae, you've got, sea grasses, you've got a whole lot of other things that are going on. And then that then rises up. Similarly, I see other parts of landmass sinking. Which bits? That's a really good question. But there is what you might call an opening there. I wouldn't say an opportunity, because we're not opportunistic, but an opening there. So who's going to inhabit those lands? Yeah, if anybody needs to, but if somebody goes and stakes a little flag on it and says, oh, this belongs to blah, 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 right? Without it being a living man or living woman, I'd say, no, you don't have any claim, because that needs to stop. Yeah. How would that work? We have to decide that for ourselves. And it may actually be that it creates enclaves of people who think differently, who live their lives peacefully, who are quite happy with, just living their lives, basically. Are the big boys going to come and do something? Well, you know, not being funny, the big boys are relying on controlling other people. And when those people realize that they're being controlled and that it's actually, you know, what they are perpetrating on others is what may well happen to them, that's when they tend to find a way out. So this year I can see that happening a lot more. What people might class as being jobs worths are really going to have no hold. The other thing that I've heard, which I thought was a really good way of putting it, because I can see this happening, I couldn't quite put it into words, and that was what you class as governments, or what people class as governments, and you know, all know about the WEF and the WHO and all that lot, and they're going to shout louder and louder, yeah, this year, but it's hollow. Now, think about the old saying, an empty vessel makes the most noise. It doesn't mean it has anything. It's just simply shouting a lot. That's it. And people are going to turn away from it. People already are turning away from it. They are making it clear that they have no trust, because that's the other thing is that the WEF have, I absolutely love this one. They have now changed. I can't remember what the last one was they had. It was something about the state of the world. I mean, think about what they're saying, right? The state of the world, right? The world isn't a state, right? It's we're already, you know, we're holding our own in this one. You know, monarch not now then becoming head of state means they're no longer monarch. What is a state, right? Is it a state of being, a state of mind? Yeah, but they want you to, so improving the state of the world. The world is absolutely fine. Yeah. Do we have to change things as living man and living woman to each other? Absolutely we do. But does it have to be their way? No, it doesn't. So what they are now changing the tagline to is something about trusting them, which I just burst out laughing. And I just went, no, that ship sailed, you know, it's not being funny, horse has bolted from barn. You know, you are seriously not going to get people to trust you. It's, you know, there will, don't get me wrong, there will be the odd person in amongst everything that will, you know, will trust it, will trust them. But they are not going to be near as big as they had whenever they started doing this. This behemoth, that, let's be really honest about it, we have created the behemoth. You know, and nobody likes owning up to that bit and saying, you know, did we create it? How did we create it? It's a grain of an idea, right? A grain of a fanciful thing, you know, a moat. And because someone spoke about it, other people went, oh, that looks really good, because then I'll gain control over other people. That's where it goes wrong. So it then puts everybody into this race, this compare and compete towards what? Oh, complete control. Well, what good is that going to do you? What real good is complete control going to do you? You're never going to experience anything new. You're never going to have adventures. You're never going to journey, right? Journeying is not just physically going geographically from one point to another. Journeying is journeying within yourself. And these people can't do that. They don't know how to do it. But we have supplied them with energy. We've supplied them with, you know, actually, we should be charging them. And there's an idea. Let's charge them for it, you know. So we've supplied them with energy. We've supplied them with ideas. We've supplied them with, you know, different ways of doing things. You know, all these different things that we and our ancestors have done. We created this behemoth. So a bit like the mother who turns around and says, don't you dare do that, because I brought you into the world and I can take you straight back out again. That's kind of the thing that we're doing now. We're going, no, hang on a minute. We created this. We created this monster, and now we need to take that monster away. And that's what we're doing. Literally, that monster is going to be crumbling in so many different ways, and already is. I'm hearing a lot of people sort of like saying that this this new way of being, or this new earth, or whatever, is coming. It's not coming, it's here. You're at the first startings of it. When something changes from one thing to another, it doesn't just go bang, here's a black and white line. It was this way one day, and it's now this way the next day, and it's fully formed and everything else. It doesn't happen that way. Things naturally progress. They naturally create, and we're the ones who create, and we co-create. So, you know, it's that progressive thing as it goes, and it can happen really quickly. Look back just 3 years, And how quickly have things happened that 3 years ago we sat there and went, oh, there is no way that that's going to happen within the next 10 years. Look at what you've done. And it's not just me, it's you guys as well. If you're sitting listening to this, you're part of that. You have created, you know, these new and different ways that are coming around for people to do things in unique ways, to be of benefit to all, to harm none. Are we there yet? No, it's going to take some time. But the thing is let's keep going. Let's keep going, you know, and let's not overwork ourselves doing it, because we need the spaces whereby we sit back and think about things. So new lands forming, some land sinking, fertile earth, nobody having a hold over it. That would be really good, which I think will, you know, thinking that through about how things tend to happen. I think those new lands forming are going to be a catalyst to people in their own lands, you know, who maybe haven't moved to them, sitting there going, hang on a second, actually, who does the land belong to? And does it belong to anyone? And I think that's going to spread a complete new way of being. And I think some people are going to struggle with that. They're going to stick to an old paradigm of, oh, you must own the land, you must have this, you must have that, and all that sort of thing. Now, there's no reason why you can't put things in place in the interim period, because that period before people get to that, it could be 100 years. It might be 10 years. We don't know. But you can put things in place if you want to, if that makes you feel a little bit safer, but realize that that's an old paradigm as well. And that eventually that will fall away. Whenever it needs to, it will fall away. And that's okay. That's fine. We've also got things coming up this year where there is far more energy on a Mahusive scale. So some people might be getting really tired, and other people might be not being able to sleep. Other people might be absolutely buzzing, you know, it's like really, really sort of like, you know, kind of, you know, as if they've got electricity really running through the whole systems. Whichever way it's going to hit you, yeah, and it already is hitting us all in different ways, that's fine. You need to sleep. If you can't get sleep, use stuff that will help you get the regenerative sleep. You know, if you're live wire, that's great, go do things. But don't expect everybody to follow you, because you might have someone who's really sleepy and someone who can't sleep and is really tired because of it. You've got to kind of find out where your own niche is and how that works with everybody else. Don't sit there and expect everybody to just follow and do what you need to do, okay? And there will be a lot of things that you can do on your own, and there'll be a lot of things whereby you come together, and it'll be short periods whereby we come together to do things, rather than, oh, if we're going to do something, we have to permanently be together. Not going to work that way. It's going to be a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there. Bite-sized pieces, basically. You know, that's really what's going to work really, really well. There's the agriculture. I see so many changes happening in agriculture. Holland were the first farmers who stood up against this whole PFAS stuff. And I can't applaud them enough. I really can't applaud them enough. Farmers really do need to be pushed. They most of them recognise that the guardians of the land, the landscape, and or livestock as well. So, you know, animals. But the Dutch farmers, they are part of something that such a tiny, tiny land. Go look up Holland on the map and see how tiny, tiny, tiny Holland is. And yet it is the second biggest exporter of food in the world. Tiny, tiny landmass, massive export, right? So you equate that somewhere like Argentina or, you know, South Africa or, you know, a number of different places around the world. What Holland has achieved is brilliant. Now, has it done it the right way? Some of it, yes, some of it, no. And that's where we get to take and learn from that and say, okay, how are we going to do this? And it may well be that some people do electroculture, some people use tower busters, some people start doing permaculture, you know, all sorts of different things, which they are already doing. This isn't, you know, pie in the sky, oh, well, you know, we'll wait until somebody does it. People are already doing this stuff. Some people are actually encouraging the mycelium. So if you don't know what mycelium is, that's your mushroom and toadstool spores that go under the earth, like a massive network. And it's one of the most natural networks going. And it's not only for communication, it's for healing, it's for a number of different things. And people have found ways whereby they can help the earth with the mycelium to then create even more, you know. And not only that, but you eat less. When you have nutrient-dense food, you eat less because you don't need as much. So people are already doing this stuff. So don't sit there and think, oh, well, you know, we'll have to wait until somebody comes and teaches us. There are plenty of resources online. And if you live in a built-up area, you know, not being funny, microgreens. Start growing your own microgreens. Or, if you're like me, I love alfalfa. I absolutely love alfalfa. There is something that I get out of alfalfa. I don't know what it is, but I really, really enjoy alfalfa. Can I grow it? I struggle. I really struggle. I'm going to give it a go again. I've been trying over the years, but it never quite comes out right. It might be because I'm in Scotland. I don't know. But I'm going to try and give it a go again. But if I had people around me, you know, who could grow alfalfa, I'd quite happily swap something with them. Look, here's seeds, you know, would you mind growing it for me? Because you've obviously got the magic touch that can do that. And I've got the magic touch that can do something that you can't do. Right? I would love that. I would absolutely love that. No bother at all. So if anybody's trying to vote me can grow alfalfa, please let me know. But the farmers as a whole, and I think you're going to see the UK farmers coming out as well. You know, Britain, the UK tends to be, for those of you who are listening around the world, you know, UK tends to be a bit navel gazing. We tend to look at our belly buttons a lot. You know, we don't tend to look outside of the UK. The Canadians have done it. You know, the truckers have done it in Canada as well. There's a whole load of things that are happening. Now, the younger farmers that are coming in, and we have a few around here, and I've been speaking to a couple of them, they know that how farming has been done in the past, say, 50 years is not right. And they're looking for solutions. They're looking for alternative ways of doing it. Now, is this going to be an overnight thing? Some parts of the country, some fields or parts of fields, yeah, it could well be. Other places, it's going to take a little bit longer for that to happen, and that's okay, that's cool. But it is the thing of being open to it, yeah? So couple that up with people eventually realizing that nobody owns the land, you know, and I'm not saying that we're at that point yet, but that is going to come. Fantastic. Fantastic. You know, just think of what you are able to do. And, you know, when it comes into people upgrading, so a lot of people have been talking about upgrading their bodies to you know, crystalline more than carbon. But if you actually technically look at it, carbon is a crystal as well. That's what makes me laugh when people are talking about it. But no, it's a good thing. It is a good thing. It's like going through birth pains. It takes its time, and it will last as long as it needs to last, and it will finish when it needs to finish. There is no set way of looking at it. There is no set timings for it, okay? And how it comes for each being is going to be different. Like I said about the different energies coming in and how you may feel with them, that's the same thing. You know, how you are going to upgrade your own body, because you are well, you're both past, present, and future. So past, you've got two lines coming into you. One is the ancestral, so that's blood lineage, that's your physicality. And then you also have past lives, which is, you know, an inordinate amount of past lives. Then you have you converging that into the present, and then you have also how you will be in the future. And there are different versions of yourself in the future. You get to choose. You get to choose how you're going to be, how you want to be. So, you know, will some versions, you know, need a little bit more the Buddhists would call it suffering. Yeah, could well be. But then again, your suffering is how you choose to see it. So if you don't see it as suffering, it's not going to be suffering. It's going to be totally different. You know, so there's a lot of stuff coming in from that. On the healing modality side of it, I see quite a lot of changes. And I think people are going to start supporting, because what's happened is that people started to kind of wake up in the last 3 years, and then they've kind of reverted. And that's caused them a bit of a problem. So what I can see is people are coming up to the point of, do you know what? what is more important? Is it having the 50-inch television and the latest devices and stuff like that? Or is it my own health and well-being? And as the vast majority of practitioners that I, work with and I'm around, we all keep saying the same thing. Learn this stuff when you're well. Don't wait till you're ill. Learn when you're well. And, I can honestly say that over the last, I'd say probably, well, for me, it's been sort of 4 or 5 years. For most of my family, it's been the last at least 3, 4 years. Very, very little in the way of illness and disease. And the diseases that we do have, we are slowly knocking off one by one. We are healing them at the root cause. So they're literally just disappearing. Have we done it all completely yet? No, not yet. It's a work in progress, and it's a work in progress because we're still in physical form. So, that's cool. But the healing that then, like a domino effect, goes through all the ancestors and through our past lives is phenomenal, which then has an effect on our futures. So there's a lot going on there. People are going to start this year. People are going to start to really start recognizing when they're jumping timelines. That's something that I've been able to do for years, and I can recognize whenever I'm in a different timeline. But they're really going to start to take notice of that and then start choosing which timeline they want to be in. So it's the different. How do you describe a timeline? It's the different. The things are still the same. But it's just how they express their ways as working together, how they interact with each other. That's the bit that changes, and that's how you know that you've jumped the timeline. But I mean, we do little workshops on that as well. So there's a lot to learn in that, an awful lot to learn. So there is a lot going on. Don't get caught up in the moaning, whinging, and berating and everything else. Absolutely have a bit of a rant. There's no reason why you can't, but if you stay in that cycle, you're not raising your vibration, and you should really be raising your frequency. It's far, far better when you do. So the outlook and the prediction for this coming year, 2024, is pretty good. For some people, it will be destructive. It will be tragic, as with any year. But for other people, it will be fantastic and epic and wonderful and, full of abundance, and everything else all of a sudden just turned around. The how this shows itself, and Sarah actually said to me before I started recording this, play it back at the end of December 2024, right? And see what's happened. And the other thing is see what's happened in your sphere. And remember that your sphere is not the only one. Yeah. So some things that I said might have happened in somebody's timelines and their dimension, but it hasn't happened in yours. Could well be. And that may well be because you've raised your vibration. Go you. That's what you need. So lots of things going on. So I hope you've enjoyed having your coffee with me. And just keep an eye on things, and don't see everything as being doom and gloom, because it's not. It's simply not. There are lots of little things that are happening in massive ways, and the ripple effect of them is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And things that I said 2, 3 years ago, I'm now hearing back to me from other people. That's how we, put that ripple effect out, and it then comes back in and we go, oh, okay, right, hang on a second, that is working. So be careful with your words. When you're putting out a negative frequency or a lower frequency, guess what, you're going to get back in again. Whereas when you put a higher frequency out, that's great. If you want to have a rant about stuff, if you want to have a go at the scallywags and everything that believe that they are in charge, right? Have that rant, and at the end of it, just say, that's how I feel at the moment. Now that I've released it and let it go, it's great. It doesn't have to come back to me, because I can see now that we are going to, and then you start mentioning all the positives. Yeah. Or that we are already, and you mention all those positives. That's how you negate things off. That's magic, guys. It's magic. So speak to you later. Have fun.